Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the much needed rain that we've received in the last couple of days. Thank you for our men and women in uniform, whether it be our police or our fire, or even those that are in the military. We just thank you and ask that you watch over them as they take on protecting us. Just let us make good decisions on your behalf this evening. And these things we pray. Amen. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. We are going to go to agenda item number 5, which is a presentation to all the senior graduates that are joining the military. I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation, and then we have a special presentation for each of the folks that are joining the armed services. So this is proclamation by the mayor of the city of Cibolo. Whereas the mayor and city council of the city of Cibolo, Texas honors and salutes the graduating seniors of the class of 2024 that have enlisted in the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, Space Force, and whereas the young men and women to this graduating class had many choices upon graduating from high school, and whereas many of their graduating class friends have chosen to either pursue college or immediate employment, and whereas these graduating seniors' time came to make a life-changing decision about what to do with their career, and they chose the military, the red, white, and blue. And whereas we realize that their parents, grandparents, and friends are proud of their son, daughter, grandson, grandchild, or friend, and whereas we as the city of Cibolo, the city of choice, are proud of these young men and women that have chosen to serve and defend this great country of ours. And now, therefore, I, Mark Allen, Mayor of Cibolo, Texas, on behalf of the Cibolo City Council staff and all citizens, do hereby proudly thank the graduating seniors of Cibolo for their commitment to serving their country, and add a special thanks to the parents that have given their support to their son or daughter in their chosen career. I urge all citizens to be grateful for these graduates' service to our country. And so the first person we're going to acknowledge is joining the Army, Tristan Curtis.
I don't think either of the Army showed up.
No Tristan? All right.
But the Navy and the Marines both showed up.
Okay. Okay, we have a Marines. Aiden Sawyer. Come on up, Aiden.
Does the family want to get in the picture?
Okay, next up, we have a young man named Dominic Villalera for the Marine Reserves. Come on up, Dominic. All right, next up, we have Caleb Harris joining the Navy. Come on up, Caleb. All right, well, thanks very much to each and every one of you for making the decision to honorably serve in the United States Armed Forces and to protect our country. We're very proud of every single one of you, and thank you very much for the decisions you've made. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is citizens to be heard. This is the only time during the city council meeting that a citizen can address the city council. It is the opportunity for visitors and guests to address the city council on any issue, to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. The city council may not deliberate any non-agenda issue, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issue at this time. However, the city council may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens. Attorney General Opinion, JC 0169, limit of 3 minutes each. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to any individual member of the council, so long as the remarks are about matters of local public concern and not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member or any attendee. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave the meeting, but no person may be requested or forced to leave the meeting because of the viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. If anyone would like to make comments on any matter regarding the city of Cibolo or on an agenda item and have this item read at the meeting, please email pcivics@cibolotx.gov and vchapman@cibolotx.gov, or call 210-566-6111 before 5 p.m. the date of the meeting. And we have 3 people signed up to speak tonight. Our first person is Dr. Sarah Harper. Come on up, Sarah. And when you get to the microphone, I think I turned it off, so if it's red, go ahead and press the button to turn it green. Thank you, Dr. Harper.
Do that. Not an engineer, social scientist, but I can figure out a button. All righty. So back again, becoming a hobby of mine. So after the previous 2 meetings, it became clear to me that Cibolo wants positive development for our young people. Those who are just as involved already, those who are at risk, those who are engaged in the community, those who know about these programs, those who don't, those who aren't aware of their value, and those who can't get to them. With that, I trust that y'all's consideration of funding and apportionment of Cibolo PD and city resources are being given due attention. So the SROs in the schools, obviously a contract issue, a funding issue, but there are concerns coming from citizens, from student emails, et cetera, where they're talking about they want to reduce drugs, they want to reduce youth offending, they want to build better relationships with law enforcement. So within your purview are these other strategies to show young people in Cibolo and their families that they are worth investing in. To invest, though, we need to listen to what they need or want to see. Obviously, I can show up here, but not everyone has that awareness or momentum to show up on a Tuesday night like it's a hobby. So what do they know about the things they can do in Cibolo that are going to include them? Are there things we already are doing to offer a space for young people in the same way we are doing for our seniors, adults, and young children? I loved seeing the summer nights events, but worry it's not for teenagers. Steele has clubs and electives that are absolutely brilliant, but not all teens here attend Steele. Not all teens can attend the electives and clubs for various reasons. So I spent a few of my summer hours looking through more federal and state funding options for grants that can help us do a needs assessment and develop different programs. We also have roadmaps to how to implement, recruit, and evaluate these programs. When we provide these programs like arts, recreation, I swear, if my son had a chance to play D&D with an officer who's off duty, he's gonna love it. I raised a nerd, I didn't mean to. When we provide these programs, they are going to help young people develop resiliency that will reduce the need for strains on local police, school resource officers, and the community. And we can build those programs. So I'm really excited to hear what the outcome was from yesterday's workshop and the discussion moving forward. I know that local police care about what our teenagers are doing, but there are teenagers that can be reached in a way that's very different than what the school district would like to do of putting more officers in there. I know our staff at the schools are great, but I would love to see what the city will do about developing programs that can improve literacy, social, emotional literacy as well, problem solving, so that they are not on the internet all the time at home and like riding around and being all loud, so they have other things to do. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harper. I appreciate it. Next up is Maggie Titterington. Maggie, come on up. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. A couple updates for you all. If you could mark your calendars, Mod Pizza is having their ribbon cutting on the 21st of June at noon. I think they're intending on feeding us too, which is always a good thing. We're also have in the works for July, hopefully, fingers crossed, Scooters Coffee and Smoothie King. So as soon as we find out when those are, we will let you know as soon as possible. Next Tuesday, we're going to have a really great presentation by e-Employer Solutions. As you may or may not know, July 1st is going to be the start of some new employment regulations. One of the biggest ones is the salary thresholds, and there's a lot of questions about that. So currently, right now, to be a salaried employee, you have to be making at least $35,568 a year. Starting July 1st, it's going to go up to $43,888. January 1st, 6 months later, it will then go up to $58,000. So this has got a lot of our small businesses a bit in a panic because it's going to make a lot of adjustments needed in staff because that threshold is not going to be able to be met. So e-Employer Solutions, Sheila Price is going to come answer questions. You know, what goes into that annual wage? Does compensation such as bonuses and things like that go into consideration? So if you haven't already done it, please RSVP. Today is the deadline at midnight, and that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie. Next up, we have Patty Horan. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you. Mayor, City Council members, staff members present. My name is Patty Horan. I live in 695 Lower Valley Lane, which is a crossroads of Lower Seguin and Weir Road. I am here first to thank you for all the funding for the construction and improvements on rural roads. And also to express my disappointment in the manner that the communication for the detour routes have been informed to us, the local residents. We are about between Hakerville Road towards the crossroads of Lower Seguin and Weir Road with about 17 residents with acreage. We have about 2 horse farms and about 3 working small agricultural farms in there. And we did not know about the road closures up until Monday, the day that they were putting out the barriers. When I came to my Cibolo HEV heading back home, they had already put out the barriers, and a city staff member was there in a marked vehicle with a uniform, and he stopped me. I approached him and I asked him, if we had I told him where I lived, and it says open through traffic. He said no, that the roads were completely closed And I had to turn around, and I asked him, I said, well, I haven't seen the detour maps. Does that mean that I had to go down on Hickoryville towards I-10 and hop on the frontage? Because I avoid that area because it's under construction, and I did not know whether the frontage bridge, after that aquaponics farming there, it was open, and he did not know. And he was scrambling over his phone looking for that information on the website, and I assured him it wasn't there because I was looking the night before to see where my escape routes were from all the closures. So my time is almost up, but Mr. Roberts, I live in District Number 2. I beg you to please, when these projects come up, to please pay special attention that we are not a big community in there, in the rural area. We really need to know ahead of time.
Patty, if you could stick around just for a second, Councilman Hicks is going to provide a factual response, and then after that, if you don't mind, if you could visit with our city manager, Mr. Wayne Reed, to get some information from him on the road closure and suggest any ideas you have to him on improved communications. Go ahead, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to let you know that there's several up here on this dais that shot it out. And you might not be on Facebook, and I understand that some people just don't have social media. But I know that there was a couple of signs that went up over a week ago. Because I had a lot of calls on it. Hey, what's going on? So I'm sorry that you did not get it. I don't know if you live on Ware Seguin, where it goes back down to Cibolo Creek, that little area. I guess it'd be by Cassie Kern's place. But no, I understand your frustration, your concern about having to be able to get to and from your house. And I apologize that you didn't have the information ahead of time. But I know that our staff put up their signs letting people know that there was going to be a closure. Again, I'm sorry that you weren't reached. And we'll try to do a better job of that from here on out.
Yeah, the flashing signs, sir, were on the lower Seguin towards the shirts after the bridge where the subdivisions have been built. It didn't have anything related to the city of Cibolo. We were calling the city of Shirts, giving them grief as to why were they closing the road. So it wasn't clear that it was the city of Cibolo.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Next up, we have Daryl Zonker. Welcome, Daryl.
We emailed a letter to each of the councilmen this evening, what I'm speaking on. My name is Daryl Zunker. I live at 545 Cibolo Drive in Marion, Texas. We were de-annexed about 6 months ago. I am speaking on this evening on the ludicrous fee that the city is stating that we owe for disannexation of our property at 545 Cibolo Drive. To begin with, when our de-annexation was approved, we were absolutely no mention of any fees to be owed. We are still asking for repayment of tax fees that were made by us. One, we were never been notified for annexation. Secondly, non-existent services provided. We would receive none. Be aware that our little road off IH-10, there are 20 residents down there. We were the only one annexed that whole time. Any police calls were made to this area were just highway incidents. No fire EMS was ever at our residence. Most of them were Shirts because they were the closest and the fastest at that time. I do want to remind you, we received no services provided from to other Cibolo residents. In addition, if you say we owe fees and we're undercharged for service that we never exist, that didn't even exist, then I assume all other residents in the city of Cibolo are going to be charged the same extra fee. We also were very curious why we had to wait until 2 days after the 6-month period to receive any notification of this, and only after we asked. We will not be paying any of those fees that y'all are saying that we back owe, that y'all were short, that y'all didn't charge us enough, and we will continue to seek repayment of the taxes that the state law also states that should be paid for disannexation of residents who receive no services provided. Thank you for your time. Can't wait to see where y'all can go with this. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zonker. Appreciate it. Actually, Councilwoman Katie Cunningham would like to provide a factual response.
Not really a factual response, but when y'all send letters, would you mind not sending it in a Google Doc link? Every time I feel like I'm failing a phishing test from IT. Okay. Thank you.
All right, next up is the consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the minutes of this regular city council meeting held on May 28th, 2024. B, approval of the February 2024 check register pending final acceptance of the city's financial audit for the 23-24 fiscal. C, approval of the February 24 revenue and expense report pending final acceptance of the city's financial audit for the 23-24 fiscal year. D, approval of the city council policy 2024-2, appointments to boards, commissions, committees, and corporation. And E, approval of the resolution supplementing Resolution 1668, authorizing the city attorney to represent Officer Balderas in the TCOLE dispute. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'd like
Mr.
to
Mayor?
remove E.
Before the motion, I want to make sure that the council is clear that a Scrivener's error was modified after a notification from Councilmember Sanchez-Stevens, sorry. And all we did is we included in Rule 4B the distinction of different at-large versus district places, which will be effective after the November 2024 election, so that it references both. Right, you know, it currently referenced districts 1 through 7, but then at the end of this year, it says it's also effective to the other districts that are the at-large districts and the other districts.
This is in relation to item D?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, with regard to the policy. And that was the only Scrivener's error correction.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde.
Thank you.
Joel Hicks, you were going to make a motion?
No, I was going to ask to have 7E removed so we can discuss that one with our attorney, I guess when we go back for executive session.
The TCOL?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so make your motion for A through D, and
I'll make a
we'll,
motion to approve items 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D as read.
Second.
so please vote on your screens. Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8, staff update, administration, including a recap of the Cibolo Summer Night event, fishing, on June 7th, recap of the fishing event at the Cibolo HEB Pond on June 1st, request for proposals, requests for bids, requests for qualifications, D, capital improvement program updates and projects, and E, council budget workshops, June 18th and July 16th at 5 p.m. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just have a short update tonight, but the reason I'm standing up here is I'm going to have the opportunity to click on a video on the screen here. So I'm going to go out of order and just say, here's a video of our first ever Cibolo Day at the pond. This is the Cibolo event where we had a partnership with the SCUC ISD and the special needs students. And let's play the video. So I want to thank Chief Troncoso, the Fire Department, and the Public Works Department. Chief, do you want to add anything? This was a really great event.
I can honestly say those kids that were there really enjoyed themselves. It was the first opportunity for a lot of them. And of course, we couldn't have done it without HEB and Roadrunner, BB inspections. And Public Works went above and beyond for preparing the property, to manicured it and took care of it. So it was a good event.
So per City Council strategic plan under quality of life, you want to create memorable outdoor experiences. So as long as the chief and the fire department in collaboration with other departments wants to keep putting this on, we've just added another memorable event for our community. I'll move on from that. The recap of Cibolo Summer Nights event, which was on June 7th. It was a well-attended event with many kids getting an opportunity to fish. I would highlight that the remaining fish have been taken to the Cibolo Pond in our new open space. So that video that I just showed you, it's been restocked. Request of proposals and request for bids and request for qualifications. I want council to know that we did publish our RFQ for engineering services for wastewater design services of the wastewater interceptors within the new CCN area. We issued that on May 22nd, and the submittals are due on June 18th. So we'll be bringing more to you in the near future about the most qualified engineering firm to help us move forward with that designing service. Also, the fiscal impact model RFP is out, and it closes on June 28th. And then capital improvement projects, no updates since just 2 weeks ago. Everything remains on schedule as I reported 2 weeks ago. And again, I'm just going to keep in front of you that you have your first full budget workshop June 18th. We're wrapping up the materials today and tomorrow, and then we will be getting that to you for the workshop. And then, of course, you'll have your second budget workshop July 16th. Both start at 5 p.m. Ms. Simics in the city secretary's office will provide a dinner for us so that we're fully fed and you can focus on your budget. Thank you, Mayor and City Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed, and also wanted to extend thank you to our Cibolo Police Department and our Cibolo Fire Department for putting on this great event for the special needs kids at the pond by HEB. And also thank you to the council members that attended, Norma Sanchez-Stevens and Joel Hicks. Joel, go ahead.
Well, I want to thank you for showing up Friday night. That was a good event. And Ms. Stevens, appreciate it. Is it possible to look at how much it would cost to put an aerator in our pond over there? It'll help the fish. I mean, all it'd have to be is some kind of little fountain that would.
We can look into that. I'll share with you that pond never goes dry in its,
Right, I know it doesn't.
its history. And the fish seem to have thrived, but because you want a quote of how much that would cost, we'll go out and find out what that cost would be.
You talking about like a fountain, Joel, in the middle of it?
Right,
That
something-
would look nice, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
That, but it would help with the
Yeah,
fishes.
circulate.
Yeah. Now, our first budget workshop, which is next week, we've been gathering some cost estimates for items that you've asked for previously, so I won't have that for June 18th. We'll try to get that for the July 16th.
I just was thinking about it myself.
Yes, sir.
While I was out there and then thinking about us taking the fish that we had this past Friday night and put them out there. I know this thrived for a long time, but it's a natural bed, so.
And
Yes,
to
sir.
and to add to that a little bit, maybe we can talk about it during the budget workshop too, is maybe some sort of platform, because I noticed there were some areas that it was really steep to go fishing. Their chairs were very inclined going down, just making it more handicap accessible just as well. I think we should entertain maybe.
Yeah,
Yes.
the plan is to have a pier, right? The U-shaped pier.
Correct.
So that should suffice
Correct.
for that.
We will be bringing to council a design for a simple pier. Right, the transaction of transferring that land to the city took much longer than we anticipated, primarily driven by clarifying any encumbrances on the property, and last but not least was TxDOT. So we have the money for the trailhead parking lot, about 30 parking spaces, and then we have funds left over for a pier. So we'll be bringing a design to council on that.
Councilman Hetzel?
On the Friday night fishing event, Also suggest that we add an additional pond or two because the line to get to those ponds was excessive.
Yes, sir.
And I know in my particular case, after I waited about 40-odd minutes to get there, I got a tangled line and had to leave shortly after that.
I'll speak with our communications manager about adding that in the budget request for Cibolo Summer Nights next year.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Next up is our resolutions. A, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo, Texas, creating the City of Cibolo Youth Advisory Council and bylaws. Brian Huggins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, if you'll recall, the City Council created a youth subcommittee at the January 23rd City Council meeting. And that was after we held our first interest meeting on November 13th, where we had 11 students and 4 parents show up and show interest in the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council. So a draft set of bylaws were created and reviewed by the subcommittee members over the past few months. Our city attorney's office took the recommendations and produced a resolution and bylaws that were included in your packet tonight for consideration. The purpose of the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council is to learn about local government and use that knowledge to educate other youth about local government, to provide participation and inclusion of local youth in municipal government, and to routinely report about the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council activities to Cibolo City Council so it may consider the viewpoints of young adults in the community. Cibolo City Council may receive recommendations from the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council, and Cibolo City Council may also refer issues to the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council for consideration and recommendation. So as it's written in the bylaws, the composition of the Cibolo Youth Advisory Council, I'm going to call it CYAC from this point forward, so I don't have to keep repeating that, will consist of no less than 8 total members, consisting of at least 6 regular youth members, at least 2 adult advisors, and no more than 2 alternate youth members. At least 1 advisor shall be a city employee, and at least 1 advisor shall be a person other than a city official, officer, or employee. And the city council shall designate who those members and advisors are. Members of the CYAC shall be selected through an open application process, and city council would be asked to select a 3-member panel to conduct interviews. Once the panel has made its selection, the recommended candidates would be presented to the city council for final selection. Adult advisors shall be over the age of 25, a parent or guardian of a CYAC member, or a member of city staff or council. And volunteer advisors and chaperones would be required to undergo a criminal background check. Meetings would be held once a month, and after council establishes the first meeting, the Youth Advisory Council will set the future dates and times for those meetings. They will be open to the public, and meetings will be posted 72 hours before the meetings, but they would not be subject to the Texas Open Meetings Act because they're for recommendations only. And all other requirements and stipulations are available in the bylaws for reference. Once the council establishes the CYAC through the resolution, we will post the information on our city website and social media channels. We'll also include information about the CYAC and application process in our upcoming In Cibolo magazine. So we're just, at this point, asking for a decision from the council on how they want to move forward.
I recognize Councilwoman Cunningham.
So I had read through this 1,000 times, but I guess I just overlooked where it said that the adult advisors need to be a parent or guardian. I know we have a lot of people who do not have children within that age range, and I feel like limiting it to just a parent or guardian of someone on the council would limit the potential pool of good quality advisors who are able to dedicate time to this that we would have available to the youth council. So I would like to remove that requirement or reword it to say preference would be given to a parent or guardian who wants to be involved. But a lot of times too, kids that age they're not as vocal if you have a parent there with you.
I hear you.
So.
Okay.
Councilman Hicks.
On section 2.4, order of business, I know that our attorney sent us out something, but I would like for it to say invocation, and/or moment of silence.
Invocation and or violence.
Because of the
Just-
nature of the issue, should there be discussion on this item, I would request that it go into executive session for attorney-client privilege communications.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it when we go back there for the, what was it, item E from the consent agenda, and now this? Okay, so we'll hold on the vote for the resolution, or you want to go ahead and vote on it? You want to talk about this first? Okay. Anything else for Brian Huggins? Any other questions? Comments from other council members about the youth council? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Huggins.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, next up is 9B, approval, disapproval of a resolution approving a contract template for the multi-event center rentals. Peggy Simics. Welcome, Peggy.
Hey, this contract that we've been using since the multi-event center opened, and so we finally decided we needed to update this because all the fees that are being paid for the multi-event center was just paid from the contract. It was not in our fee schedule. So this way, it really helps us in making sure that not only is the city covered, but also the people that are playing. So it needed to be updated with the help of Mr. Hyde's firm. He helped write this contract. We made a few tweaks to it now but I think it's a good contract now, and everybody that utilizes the field, if it be a long-term contract like you did with Reese Kelly, or if it's an individual using it just for one day, it's the same contract. So if anyone has any questions on it, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any deliberation on the new contract for the multi-event center?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Hold on. I think Katie had a question.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to confirm our attorneys looked over this too. Yep.
They wrote the contract.
Oh, perfect.
Make a motion to approve 9B as written.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Peggy. Next up is 10A, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo, Texas for a temporary waiver with conditions to plating regulations for certain real properties located at 10833 IH-10 Frontage Road.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, the owners are MLM Trust, represented by Maya Janes Green of Weber LLC, Council District 7. It's zoned mixed-use regional employment center. The use is for a temporary concrete asphalt batching plant. As you recall, the applicant was granted a conditional use permit for this use on January 23rd of this year. And as one of the requirements of the conditional use permit was that they either plat the property or obtain a waiver to the platting requirements. However, they were not able to meet this condition in the time provided as per the ordinance, and therefore the conditional use permit was declared void at that time. They did submit a second request for a conditional use permit, and they were granted approval May 14th of this year. And it also included the same condition for platting as part of that new conditional use permit. This batching plant is a temporary use, and it was awarded a TxDOT contract for the expansion of the IH-10 corridor. They intend to operate on the site until October of 2026 or upon completion of the project. They have requested and agreed to restore the property to the approved permit grading plan as one of the conditions of the approved conditional use permit. The request to waive the platting requirement is in response to the temporary nature of their contract, and and to comply with the conditional use permit ordinance conditions. Council had previously denied a request for a waiver to plating requirements at the March 12th meeting of this year. Should council consider approval of the waiver, staff is recommending several conditions be included, which are that a temporary waiver shall only become effective upon the full compliance of the property with all the requirements of the approved ordinance 1445 or any amendment thereof. The temporary waiver shall expire on December 31st of 2026 or at the expiration of any extension thereof authorized by council. That a perimeter fence is installed in accordance with the approved ordinance. A landscape buffer is installed. A dust mitigation is implemented. Operations at and the uses of the property shall comply with the approved ordinance. No uses other than those provided by the approved ordinance shall occur on the property, and no use shall occur on the property prior to the approval of a site plan. And all uses and activities of the property shall comply with an approved site plan. Council has the option to either approve with conditions, or deny the requested waiver to plating requirements.
Thank you very much. Does anybody on the council have any questions or comments about this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to approve 10B with the conditions that Ms. Herta expressed. 10B.
It says 10A
10A.
on our screen.
10A, right.
10A. I've got it
10A,
checked
okay.
off. I'm sorry, 10A.
And we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Cunningham. Please vote.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. All right, next up is 10B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo, Texas, providing for the disannexation tax and fee procedure. George Hyde.
So the city of Cibolo has not, at least from our research, had not ever disannexed any property that it had annexed before. When you look at the tax code has a specific provision in it that requires, it does not state a particular process, but it requires you to adopt one by ordinance in the event that you have a disannexation. In that statute, it says that you shall refund any taxes due less any direct costs associated with that property. So every time that the city council goes out for bonds, the bond rating organizations and the Securities and Exchange Commission looks at your property values, and your property values are security for those bonds. And so in doing so, we looked at a number of other cities who had created the ordinances, looked at the methods by which that they calculated the costs, and adopted the methods that were used in conjunction with consulting with your bond counsel with regards to the appropriate method to continue to protect the bond's interests. And in doing so, what the process, just in plain terms, is that the debt that this city has issued during the time that the property was in the city is allocated to every property and whatever proportionate amount of debt related to that bond is the amount of money that you identify as your direct cost, and then you look at how much they've paid during that time period, and whatever the difference is what is the obligation. In some cases, for instance, well, let me back up. De-annexations typically occur, when they do occur, relatively quickly. 1 or 2 years at the most. Having 10 years like this one is kind of an anomaly that it would be done, because any challenges to that annexation would have long been gone from the statute of limitations. So in most cases, a piece of property is in the city for a short period of time where there may be no bonds paid, or if they're in there for 2 or 3 years and there are no bonds issued during those 2 or 3 years, then the 2 or 3 years of taxes would be the amount minus the direct cost that would be refunded. And so that would be a positive number for purposes of the property owner. So it really depends on the circumstances that each person faces and the city faced with regards to its financing during the time that they're inside the city limits. And so based on that, we, in concert with the recommendations of your bond council and consistent with other cities that have adopted substantially similar ordinances under the tax code, we prepared the calculation and we've provided that for the city council's review and approval this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hyde. Councilwoman Cunningham is now recognized.
I had a few questions. The first is the timeline on providing this information to the property owner. So the owner who was here during Citizens to be Heard said they didn't get that calculation until 6 months after they had been annexed or they had started the process. So is this something that we'll be able to provide before a decision is made on annexation so that the property owner can?
Yes, I mean, now that we've adopted the ordinance, we have that issue, but since
Okay.
it had never been adopted, we had to go through the research process in order to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Just a side note it's very spelled out and it's very step-by-step, but it's also very confusing. And I think that anyone who's not in finance or law is going to be confused by what pieces are calculated and how. So if there's a way that we can have an Excel workbook or some kind of worksheet where people can plug it in and they can kind of see how it all works together, that may be helpful. I think that would also help with our consistency with the city calculating it. We can say this is the form that we use. The formula's already built in and locked. There's no funny business going on. And then also, how do exemptions factor in? We have, a few years ago, we had 19% of our population was disabled veterans or of some level that were not paying at least 50% of their property taxes up to 100%. That impacts our tax rate that our residents are paying and would impact that percentage, the pro rata percentage that.
Well, the tax code for purposes of collecting on this ordinance does not provide an ability to make that type of individual deduction. And so since the tax code doesn't allow us to do that, then we've not made that amount. We've done it through the allocation of costs based on the actual expenses paid by that particular property.
Right, so it's not so much that particular property owner, because if they haven't paid taxes because they have an exemption, then they haven't paid taxes. But if we're a city of 100, just for ease, for a city of 100 and 20% of those don't pay any taxes, when we're calculating the average amount of taxes paid per person, or my portion as one out of the 100, if those 20 are in there, it skews the amount that each house actually pays.
I recognize that from an individual process, but that would change considerably even every year if somebody moves. And so it's something that the state law does not provide as a mechanism that we have to incorporate into the process. And that would be one that would create a significant additional complexity to the calculation. And I don't know that it would, in the bigger picture, financially have a significant effect on the value.
Councilman Mahoney.
So, Mr. Hyde, would you say that these exemptions, whether it's 20% or whatever, does that affect the city's bond rating indirectly, or is it more directly?
Well, I'm not bond counsel, but in my experience in the bond allocation, what they look at is what is what is the tax obligations that the city has? How much money, how much property value do you have, and how much general fund payments does that create? And they look at it as a whole. And so that's why this is also being looked at as a whole.
Simple math, I get.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from council? Can I entertain a motion? Anybody? Thank you very much, Councilman. Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Katie. Motion passes 5-2. Okay. Moving on to 10C, approval disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo, amending ordinance 1415 fee schedule by updating the fees. I'm sorry, we already did that one. Sorry.
No.
Or no, we didn't. Okay.
We
said
didn't.
the same thing during our review, Peggy. I was like, all right, this is familiar. Okay, I'm sorry. For the multi-event center fee rates, Peggy Simmons.
Okay, so all this is doing is taking the contract that you just approved and putting the fees from that contract into the fee schedule. So basically, that's what this is.
Thank you, Peggy. Can I hear a motion, please?
Motion to approve 10C.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Hicks, second by Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to 11A, discussion action on the Cibolo Police Department and School Resource Officers SRO program. Chief Andrus.
I know it's not your fault.
So I know for council, one of the things that we discussed was obviously the motion to decide whether or not we're going to leave the 5 SROs in their current assignment, or would they be reassigned to patrol Pacific duties. So I know we had some discussions regarding this, and also from with our city attorney, George Hyde, that related to Texas Education Code 37081 that talks about controlling ILAs and SROs. So I wanted to come back in front of council for any follow-up questions or discussions that you may have related to our SRO program.
Okay, so this document that you handed out is a recap of the conversations last night?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like me to read those, sir?
I don't think that's necessary. I think we're all. You think, Katie? Okay.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead and read it then. Thank you.
Absolutely. So one of the things we had a discussion last night at our workshop was a discussion about the school police department school resource officer program, our patrol division, and exploring options using city resources. As we discussed with council, One of the important things was to discuss, would there be an interest in negotiating with SEUCISD on school resource officers and an interlocal agreement that we kind of had under the following terms that would be in compliance with the Texas Education Code that controls the ILA. So I know council had some discussions at the workshop about different models as the way that this program could be looked at, whether SEUCISD would incur 100% direct costs, including direct costs associated with services for our officers like human resources services, information technology, and finance, and other expenses that the city incurs. We also had discussions about a hybrid model for the city to consider to provide for SROs and an SRO sergeant. We had some detailed discussion about the duties of SROs and the SRO sergeant that report, that serve in those roles at the school campuses. One of the things we discussed was clarification, right, about the chief of police and how we retain the responsibility for supervision and control of SROs, the SRO sergeant, the duties and activities, and that would be including after January 1st, 2025, when there are some changes to this law. We also discussed the list of additional options for law enforcement services above SRO and SRO sergeant, and how we will attach an ILA and provide on a reimbursement basis a schedule of costs to include, that would be included in the ILA and updated on an annual basis. We talked about clarification for SROs and SRO sergeants and our desire to ensure that that laws will be enforced, and when violations of the law occur, that would be determined by the police department, as we do in any other instances in our community, and how we respond to those on campuses. And then we talked about communications and the plan that we would use to provide clarity, how both sides will share and disseminate information. And then finally, we had some discussions about the annual adjustment that will be based on actual direct costs for a Cibolo police officer in our SRO program assigned to the campuses and the SRO sergeant, and not use the CPIU index.
Thank you, Chief. Well, I think you did a really good job on this document, capturing the spirit of the discussions at the workshop last night. I know we had very spirited discussions about the new contract that needs to be negotiated with the school district. Everyone from City Council had very good points last night, and I feel that we were clear as to our expectations within a new agreement. And personally, I feel that you, Chief, and George Hyde, and our city manager, Wayne Reed, and of course, Brian Huggins, are well-equipped to go to negotiate this contract. And I believe that's the will of the majority of council. And so I want to open it up for discussion. We'll start with Councilwoman Cunningham.
Just to clarify, this is not a final approval of any agreement. Any agreement would still need to come to council for our review and final approval. Timeline, is there, I would like to just put limitations on how long this extends out. We don't have a lot of time. We have to work on our budget. Whether we go with this or not, we need to know, because if they convert to patrol officers, we need to budget that. And so we need to know quickly. So I would like to see if you can get us something by mid-July so we can talk about it by the second meeting in July at the absolute latest. We have to have something. We cannot make decisions based on guesses. So even if that's just the district writing an LOI saying, yes, we agree to all of this, we need something.
Councilman Benson.
So it dawned on me as I was leaving here last night, that we appear to be negotiating against ourselves. The only thing that we've gotten from the school board is they think that we should keep the program. Great. We're literally negotiating against ourselves. We have no idea what they even need or want. And there is literally, in my mind, no reason to even begin to have our city attorney and our folks even engage. They need to engage. It's their responsibility. And sending out a letter saying, yeah, we want to keep things the way they are. Okay, we've made it clear that's not going to happen. So it is their responsibility. And I feel like, in a sense, we're negotiating against ourselves. What are we willing to give? It's not our responsibility. I think that when I left here last night, I was like, missed a big opportunity. In fact, I think a couple of times the city attorney tried to bring that back around to, hey, what are we trying to get at here, right? And I've in conversations and email, I understand that sometimes you want to be in charge of what's being put out there in the document, but this isn't our document. This isn't we're not requesting them to do something for us. They need something from us to fulfill the law, and that means they need to come to us and say, this is what we need. We only need one officer. We only need two officers. We figured out another plan. And I just think that we lay something out and then say, this is what we want to do for you. I think we're going the wrong direction on this.
Thank you very much, Councilman Benson. I think that what we talked about last night is that we're going to give them a framework of what we feel our services should be provided as. And I think that we've identified that the current contract is no longer compliant with the new changes to state law. And we're being proactive in getting out in front of this and wanting to come up with a contract that's agreeable for the city of Cibolo and our police department. And so I think this is a proactive approach instead of a reactive. No matter who initiates the conversation, it's a negotiation that needs to occur.
But if we go to them and they have no interest in, maybe they've moved on.
Well, that's to be determined, and that's the point of the negotiation.
Mr. Mayor, the last communication we received that I'm aware of from the school district was it presumed that the existing contract continues to be in force. And so in that event, whatever action we get tonight, I would like to make it clear that I have direction to inform them that the contract that we currently have had is terminated. And I'll need that to be approved by the city council. Now, that can go right with a invitation to negotiate a new one, but I'd like to get that from you so that we could at least put that to bed. Thank you.
Yeah, as a part of due course in the negotiation process of replacement of the existing contract. Correct. Any other discussion? Okay, Councilman Mahoney?
For Mr. Hyde, do you know, does their fiscal year coincide with ours?
It does. It's the same term.
So what's on my mind is, and I hate to use the word convenient, but if we had to abandon this role, I'd like to see it go through the end of the fiscal year. But I think we're all running out of patience, and I tend to agree with Mr. Benson that the ball's in their court. It seems like we have served and served and served, and I don't feel like they're returning.
Yeah, so the prior agreement, which has gone through a number of renditions without the city council's approval, but nevertheless, if that contract was in place, it stated that a 180-day advance notice was required in order to terminate that contract in that year.
Okay.
That 180 days, was it April? I believe April. And so that time, maybe May 8th or something, so it was right around there. And so that time has passed. As I did inform the city manager, is that type of time period in a contract of this type is intended to provide someone with advance notice that they need to evaluate their budget so they can find alternative services. And there's a provision in the law called substantial compliance. And what that means is that if we've put them on notice that there's an issue here and we may not do this, did we give them sufficient notice that they need to look elsewhere? And so that is an excuse for strict compliance, because the purpose of that provision was to give them that advance notice, and they've had that advance notice, and they still have now until September 30th to adopt a budget that will provide for it. And so that is the other legal aspect of this agreement, is that they'll say, well, you didn't provide notice in time, and then we'll say, well, we did provide you notice within substantial compliance, and here's the case law that says that's good enough. Yeah, but I really don't think there would be any value for the city and the school district to get into some contractual dispute over the prior contract because of its deficiencies. That would not be a good use of funds. But that's the other reason why I'd like to be able to send them that formal notice.
Mr. Hyde, you've stated it, and I would say that we have given them sufficient time. We brought it up. I know that Mr. Benson, we talked about it last night, Mr. Benson had pulled Ms. Paige Maloney aside at a luncheon thing and told her where we were going. So they've had sufficient time to understand we've got our concerns with this whole SRO program. So courts are funny. You know that, I mean, obviously, because you practice law. But I think that we've given them sufficient time.
So I'm going to ask the question.
Yeah,
and I think I know
disagree.
the answer, but Mr. Reed or Mr. Hyde or Mr. Andreas, has the superintendent or anyone from the school district contacted us about a new contract?
And one of the things I will say, because with staff, obviously, we've had discussions with their representatives in the school with security. And they have asked which way that we may be leaning, and we've told them that we're still taking a look at this. I have gotten any response back from them that they did not desire to have Cibolo police officers there.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we've got back. I know Mr. Reed may have some conversations, but in our meetings, they have indicated, well, which way we may be going.
Right. Okay. So they have reached out, but they're asking us which way, we're leaning, right?
Yes, and I think
Looking
because of
to
the
us for
discussions that
guidance.
were had, they were determining.
And Mayor and Council, so last week, J.D. Mosley with the school district reached out to me. He called the same day they had their budget workshop, which I think was last Tuesday. And he said, hey, we're going to be looking at the shirts ILA, and I want to update the board on where Cibolo is. And what I informed him is on June 10th, which they had already been noticed by me in writing, the council will have a special workshop to discuss the ILA and SROs and whether or not we would shift those resources to patrol or stay in an ILA. And I informed him that following that workshop, we would be sending the school district notice based upon council's direction.
Okay. So they have initiated conversations. They have reached out.
They have reached out to ask for an update. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so also, based upon your direction tonight, if your direction is to proceed as the drafted motion indicates, we'll write that up tonight. It'll be emailed to Paige Maloney tonight, and I would ask her to put it on their June 18th agenda. Also, you'll know from the workshop yesterday in my memo to council that I indicated that the SCUC ISD board and the Shirt City Council are both having on their June 18th agendas the approval of their ILA, the consideration for approval of their ILA. So my request of the superintendent will be to place your direction on their agenda so that they can at least start that discussion. And I'll also request by a date certain a response so that you can be considering this in July as to what their response is.
Okay. And so I think this document pretty well captures what we talked about last night, and that would be the framework for the letter that would go to the school district to begin the process of creating a new contract that includes the terms that we discussed last night. Okay. Katie, I'm sorry, Norma?
One thing that I also realized, TG, is that we kind of left without even discussing a subcommittee just as well. And last night we received some actual figures that we hadn't received before. And I think it would be very prudent for there to be a subcommittee to go in this, along with the city manager and the city attorney. Another question, Chief, that I had asked last night was, was it even ever discussed at one time, this particular option, if the school district would even consider it? And I think we're kind of where TG had mentioned a little while ago. Here we're offering them something, but then yet they haven't even offered this option to us. So what if we're going in and offering this to them and they're not even interested? And we're spending all of our resources and they're just going to say, this is not what we're looking for. So, and that's why I had asked you, have we even considered approaching them with this particular, because you came to us with several options of different percentages, and this percentage was not one. And so these are just some concerns that I have. Are we going to be spending resources on something that they're not even going to want to consider? So to Mr. Benson's point, should we go to the school district and say, what do you need? What do you need? And I think it's pretty obvious what we were looking at, and they can go ahead and come back to us if this is something that interests them.
No, I would totally agree. This is not one of the options that we've had discussed. So obviously, us being able to take this back would be something for them to consider, because this hasn't been one that we presented to you. We presented several different variations of options, from all schools to having most of our high school and intermediate school, and to the option that we currently have. So those were the options that we've discussed. I haven't, and I don't think Mr. Reed has had any options on what we discussed last night. That would have to be something that we would have to present.
And when you mentioned that those are the options that we've discussed, who is we? Is it just internally within staff, or is it with the district, all the options that we've
So some of the options that we've discussed with you all have been discussions that I've had with them. And those were the options that we presented. Those variations at the last few meetings were variations of options that we've had discussions with them, whether it would be 10 officers, 7 officers, or remain as 3, and some of the cost breakdowns that was in there for the cost allocation for the officers. So we've had those preliminary discussions with them, and I think those started really probably under former Chief Huggins as we were ramping up after HB 3, as we continued to look at how we would meet the requirements of HB 3.
I think I'd like to entertain to see if the school district would like to move forward with this without us exhausting all of our resources and proposing it to them, but rather them proposing it to us, realizing that this is what we're looking into.
Mayor and council, to clarify, the draft motion here is for you to direct the city manager and the city attorney to determine if the ISD's interested, and if they're interested, enter into negotiations on a new school resource officer interlocal cooperation agreement. The only investment we're making is after this meeting, should you pass a motion that looks similar to this or modified from what is written, is a letter will be drafted tonight. It will be sent tonight to Paige Maloney, a request for it to be on their June 18th agenda. That's it. Until they respond, we're investing no more time.
So I think then the reality of it is the motion is no more than the top paragraph.
Yeah,
providing all these different solutions, or our negotiations are nuts. Write the letter to Miss Maloney and tell her, yeah, do you want to talk or not? And then I think that's where we need to be, because this, if they don't, they quite honestly may have moved on.
Well, that's to be determined. We can't determine that here tonight.
Correct. But then why would I send out 7 or 8 potential options for them if they've already moved on?
Right.
Just send the top paragraph and let's see what they say.
Yeah, the communication to them could be as detailed or as vague as necessary. We don't necessarily have to spell out the entire contract for them. And this motion isn't to approve a contract. A contract with them will have to come back. That's not what we're doing tonight. we're to start the conversation to,
Okay, so then I'll
Create a
make a
new
motion, the city council direct the city manager, city attorney, and a subcommittee of city council members to enter into negotiations with SCUCISD and a new school resource interlocal cooperation agreement, which will satisfy Texas Education Code 37.081 effective January 1st,
I'll second that.
period.
Did you say to determine their interest?
Yep.
Okay.
You skip that part, but if you want to include it, you can. You skip that part, but you
What
can.
part?
What the,
No, it says determine their interest right in here.
determine their SUI interest. and
Determine
if
the
interested.
SCUCID's interest, and if interested, enter into negotiation with the SCUCISD,
on a new school resource
and a
officer.
subcommittee of this council on a new school resource officer interlocal cooperation agreement, which will satisfy Texas Education Code 37.081 effective January 1st, 2025.
I would also like to make a nomination for the subcommittee to be Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Benson, and Mr. Hicks. Y'all are in agreement.
I would second those.
I've already seconded it, and I'll second that.
We can't have two motions at the same time though, right?
Yeah,
Defining
I
the
think,
adding
yeah,
it.
that was an amendment, so now,
Okay.
The amendment was to nominate as the subcommittee Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Benson, and Mr. Hicks, if all feels comfortable with that selection.
and so that was.
I
it.
would like to consider putting Mr. Mahoney in one of those positions on the subcommittee, as he is a police officer and has vast experience with this.
So, well, yeah, we can do it all four, that's fine, as long as Peggy posts notice.
I feel
As long
that-
as Peggy posts a notice, we can.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so, yeah, as long as Peggy posts notice, you can have all four.
I would just have the city council consider whether or not you want to have a public meeting when you're negotiating terms and conditions and financial obligations.
Because I think this has been on long enough, and there's enough stuff that's gone on behind the scenes, that I think this needs to be open, it needs to be discussed, and, I'm just,
As transparent as possible.
I'm kind of for all the sunlight we can get.
Great, I just wanted to point it out.
I appreciate your point, I just think at some point we need to shine the light here.
So currently, there is a motion and a second after the friendly amendment. And so, right, and so,
You made the second? Was that you, Norma?
and so now I think there's another potential amendment.
Should we just rescind
I would-
and start over?
No.
No.
I think
Okay, go ahead and vote.
Well, hold on. I think that Councilmember Cunningham was raising another amendment to your motion to either include or add or to substitute.
Amendment number, I'd like to make a motion for amendment number 2 to add Mr. Mahoney to the subcommittee.
Okay, so we're gonna have to vote.
So, yeah, so now,
No, just one.
nope,
Just one
once.
vote. It'll include the amendments.
one motion
It's
now.
fine.
No, the amendments have to be voted on.
The amendments are included in the motion.
Yeah, well, what, yeah, yeah, if there is a.
In the minutes.
Because I think, take
The
a,
amendments are included in the motion. It's okay.
they need to do three things. So vote on the second amendment, then vote on the first amendment, then vote on the motion.
Okay, we'll call a vote for the motion, please. TG's motion.
You have to go backwards.
You have to go backwards.
Yeah.
But we can't
yeah.
add Mahoney to a committee, subcommittee that wasn't.
No,
amended
it's
in,
just approving that to be part of the motion.
Okay, so we'll start with the Mahoney amendment. Roll call vote, starting with Benson.
Aye.
Motion for second amendment for the subcommittee. First Amendment for the subcommittee, starting with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, please vote on your machines for Benson's amendment to begin the negotiation process with Cibolo City staff and SCUC ISD.
Yep.
Subcommittee separate.
That's the motion right now is everything. It's his motion with her
Right.
subcommittee and Mr. Mahoney.
Okay, motion
being-
passes 7-0. All right, moving on to 11B, discussion presentation of the Economic Development Annual Report. Kelsey Lee.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. We're very excited to bring you this year's Economic Development Report on activities that have happened over the last 12 months. This is helping support your strategic plan, and item 5.2, which is looking to enhance communication with our community, sharing on all the good things that are going on, keeping people in the loop, identifying when there are challenges and how we're addressing them. Typically, this presentation is provided to you at the first meeting in May every year. That's because it aligns with International Economic Development Week. However, that meeting was a pretty long one, so unfortunately we didn't make it, and so we have pushed it to today's meeting. Within your packet is a copy of that annual report, and I am going to ask Ms. Isabella Ellis, our Economic Development Specialist. She's going to come up and walk through it, and then we'll be here to answer any questions that you have. There we go. Perfect. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So because economic development is a multifaceted approach that involves both the city's Economic Development Department and the Cibolo Economic Development Corporation, staff is presenting a combined annual report. This annual report highlights activities in 3 key areas of business retention and expansion, workforce development, and business attraction. So I'm going to go to our first section of retention and expansion here. While it typically receives less fanfare than new businesses opening, business retention efforts are paramount to the health and stability of a community. This reporting period saw the continuation of a formal business retention and expansion program focusing on in-person meetings with Cibolo business owners, surveys to identify areas of success and target areas for improvement, regular promotion of training resources through our training partners, and connections to grant opportunities. The Cibolo Economic Development Corporation offers a business improvement grant to eligible businesses in the Old Town District and FM 78 corridor to help promote tourism in Cibolo. This geographic area includes most of downtown Cibolo, parts of FM 1103, and parts of FM 78. These matching reimbursement grants assist small businesses with making exterior improvements to their properties to enhance the aesthetic charm of the Main Street and FM 78 corridor areas. The CEDC approved and/or distributed grants of up to $15,000 for the following 7 local businesses and their projects in this reporting period. So we saw Maco's on the Creek, Catalano's Pizzeria, 1908 House of Wine and Ale, Cibolo Grange, our Tackett Insurance Agency, Maine 508 LLC, or also now known as Marigold on Main, and the Rooted Fork. So they did some projects including some parking lot improvements. We saw some expansions for outdoor patio areas, some updated signage. So a lot of good projects that occurred during that reporting period. All right, and the city also conducted the second installment of a Shop Local program through Blue Dot called Open Rewards during the holiday shopping season from October 2023 to January 2024. Through this program, residents and visitors shopping at local retail, restaurant, or personal service businesses in Cibolo had the opportunity to earn 5% cash back on their purchase to then spend on a future purchase in Cibolo. The Economic Development Department seeded the funds for the reimbursements, so there was no cost to the Cibolo businesses to participate. This past holiday season, we had a total of 326 users who interacted with the 70 participated businesses on the Open Rewards app, and staff observed the following successes.
So we had about 41,000 total economic impact, 39 times return on investment, and a 6 times boost in purchases that were seen on Small Business Saturday, which was at the end of November. This program was successful in encouraging micro decisions to shop local in Cibolo over shopping in another city, as 80% of the users indicated the program influenced them to shop locally. Staff is exploring rolling out this program again in the next holiday season. All right, so we're going to move on to the workforce development section here. There we go. So a key component of business success is workforce availability. City staff serves on the SCUC ISD Career and Technical Education Advisory Board. The primary focus of the CTE board is to advise, assist, and provide support and advocacy for quality CTE programs. The City of Cibolo also participated in the SCUC ISD Job Shadow Day in March and April 2024. This program connects high school students to see a day in the life of local companies and organizations by engaging in industry tours, active discussions, and hands-on activities. Over 30 students from the district over the course of 2 days took the time to explore careers in Cibolo, including with the City of Cibolo's police and fire departments. The Cibolo EDC also participated with the EDCs of New Braunfels, Schertz, and Seguin to host multiple regional job fair events in 2023 and 2024. Over 700 job seekers ready to launch their careers in various industries connected with employers throughout the region over this past year. All right, I'm going to move on to the next section, which is business attraction. Business attraction efforts are strong, with many new businesses opening up their doors or expanding in the last 12 months. Multiple new announcements were made, especially in retail and restaurants, of businesses that opened up over the last year, especially in the area surrounding Walmart. Staff continues to work to attract primary employers through efforts such as regional familiarization tours in 2024, which is highlighting the attractiveness of the region for new corporate locations, and through the ICSC Red River and Vegas conferences, which is a multi-day event series that involves the gathering of innovators and deal makers who are dedicated to strengthening communities and economies by bringing the spaces where consumers shop, dine, work, play, and gather to life. All right, and on to the last section here. So the Cibolo Economic Development Corporation has conducted 2 important studies in fiscal year 24, an Economic Development Strategic Plan and an IH-10 Corridor Plan, guiding the city and CEDC towards clear economic goals and targeted industry pursuits. Additionally, the CEDC is actively exploring the development of approximately 16 acres of land along FM 78, aiming to proactively select businesses aligning with community needs, creating jobs, and enhancing community well-being. These studies, combined with the opportunity to develop a regional destination area along FM 78, will set the city up for long-term success. So staff is optimistic about the opportunities coming up in the next reporting period and looks forward to continuing efforts to make Cibolo the city of choice for new and existing businesses. So I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation, and I wanted to commend the Cibolo EDC for all the great work that you're doing to retain the businesses that support Cibolo and also to attract some great new businesses to Cibolo. So thank you very much for all of the efforts that your department is embarking upon. And I just can't say enough good things about the work that you and Kelsey are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Any questions from council?
I want to thank y'all for doing what y'all have been doing. I appreciate it. Just continue that effort to try and bring businesses in. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. All right, thanks again. All right, next up is agenda item 11C, discussion presentation on Agenda Link. We have Tracy. Welcome, sir.
We all have his phone number, personal phone number that we can call at any point. It integrates really tightly with the AV system that we installed. It has a digital voting system. There aren't many solutions out there that actually have that integrated into the agenda management solution. And then we have the ability to request custom changes or updates to the system as we progress and move forward. So other systems researched were Civic Web and Diligent. Neither one of those systems did have a electronic voting system available. So overall, what does this system do? So Agenda Link is a centralized platform that provides one pane of glass to create a council agenda that allows staffs to create their cover sheet staff reports with supporting documentation. It electronically tallies votes for each item. It creates a workflow that allows for collaboration on an item in one place. Basically, that eliminates the back and forth emails that we see. And it creates a digital routing footprint that is recorded as an item is processed through the system. So system glitches and what we've been seeing. So one of the big ones that we've seen are the screens locking up or being really slow to respond. So what we discovered is there's an HDMI splitter right there next to Councilman Benson. Turns out those do have to be rebooted every once in a while. So, and that is what we've actually, we've created a routine where we're in here regularly taking a look at these items, making sure they're rebooted, refreshed. So that way we shouldn't be running into that issue anymore. So the last two councils meetings, we did have the error with the white screen, the error code with the white screen. So that actually was a result of a coding error that was discovered due to the change of our, sorry, I lost my train of thought, our document editor, thank you. So it was the document editor, that change is what actually was causing that. The printing errors that we've seen, that was actually, again, that's back to that document editor. The original one that they had in there wasn't robust enough for us, so we did ask for a change. He made that change for us. So that new editor has resolved the printing issues that we've seen where it was cutting stuff off. It actually allows us to put page breaks in there for us if we need to. And then, of course, the voting not being displayed during the council meetings, that simply just all council members have to vote. If there's not a vote, then it doesn't prompt her.
That was my fault last time because I wasn't voting, so I take full responsibility.
Not blaming anybody for anything, sir. But again, everybody is aware of that now. So as you see, it has been working, thankfully, tonight. And then, of course, we're going to move into the updated features. There has been a request for multiple motions votes on a single item. That was asked for in the very beginning. Apparently that was put in. We just didn't know it was put in. So City Secretary's office is, if they haven't already, will be scheduling to get trained on how to actually do that in the system. There's also something that's been built in called ranked voting. Recently, y'all had an item where you had multiple choices, and you could literally vote for your favorite one or rank them, favorite to least favorite, and it would take all those votes and put them together, and this is everybody's favorite is how it would end up, basically. So updates on one of the other things that's been asked for is how the CSO's office, or Valerie, or Peggy, if she's doing it, selects who makes a motion. Right now, you click on the motion, and then you have to choose, you have to scroll through the list of who made the motion, and that's how that gets popped up there. The request was made to be able to just tap on a person's face, and then select the motion, tap on the face, and then the second face would be the second motion. That is being looked at as a possibility. It's an extensive change. It's a huge lift for the software, but they are taking a look at it and see if it's something that can be done. And then the last thing that was asked for was or actually discussed between Valerie and Peggy and I, is real estate. So we brought an external monitor over here to give her a little more room to be able to do what she needs to do. It is supposed to help create some efficiencies. think it has tonight. It's made things a little smoother for her. She's got more screen to be able to choose stuff from. So, and with that, I'm be happy to answer any questions, but I do want to know if y'all have seen any other issues that we didn't talk about here that we need to be addressing.
Councilman Hicks.
I brought this up because obviously we've been having glitches and issues. And I'm glad to see that you mentioned the multi-motions. That was one thing, like, great example was tonight.
Yes, sir.
We need to have it to where you can go up to 3 or 4 amendments. I mean, because you've got 7 people up here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying put 7 on there, but you've got 7 people up here making motions. We need to be able to have that opportunity, because then we had to do a roll call vote. I mean, the whole purpose of us getting this system and the amount of money that we spent on this system, we've got to be able to have that ability to go in there. Okay, well, this was a second amendment, this was a third amendment, you know, and then you go back, because you know, going to the training, I know that you've got to start from the last one to go forward to make that happen.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just, that's one of those things that we really need to, because we've had several of those occasions that have happened over the last couple of months since we've moved into here. My other question is, why did you go with basically it's a one-man show?
It was in the beginning. As I understand it now, it's actually him. He has another full-time staff person, and then there are part-time employees that help out when necessary.
Okay.
That's what I understand now. So,
okay, because it causes a problem. I mean, because some people go on vacation. I'm not one to go on vacation. I don't like going on vacation. I don't like leaving my home. That's just me. But you got people that want to go on vacation, or if they get sick. I mean, or if they go into the hospital and you got one person that's running this whole program, and that's how it was in the beginning. We could have gotten ourselves into a huge bind, especially if you don't know the entire system like they do. So I have a question on that as to why we would have gone with somebody that was a one-man show that wasn't, not to put down nobody, that wasn't very intelligent to just go with the one-man show and take a chance on it. That's just my 2 cents.
I think this is a software solution as opposed to a manpower solution. I think the software, once you've been trained and once you know how to use it, the software does the job.
I understand
and
that,
you're
Mayor,
able
but
to use
if,
the software.
If there's a glitch in that software,
I think that, yeah, I think
to them.
I agree that the training and the rollout probably wasn't as robust as we probably needed. As far as, you know, one time he showed up and showed us how to use it. I think there probably could have been a little more
well, the price we're paying,
hand holding, you know what I mean? So,
maybe a couple days,
but,
maybe.
yeah,
Absolutely.
But Tracy, I just wanted to say, you know, I want to commend you for doing such a fantastic job running the IT for the city. I'm in IT myself, so I have a special appreciation for the types of things you do, and I think you're doing a great job, Tracy. So thank you.
Appreciate it. And I did want to add, fortunately, we are going to be getting some access to the back end of the system. Currently, we don't have it, but he is, and that is something I've been beating on them about, is we need to be able to do some of this stuff in the background, because you're right, what if he got hit by a bus and is in the hospital, broken legs, broken arms, you know, and his second person's out, so what are we doing there? So, but they are making efforts to get us that access, so, absolutely, yes, sir. Any other questions? Have y'all seen anything else weird that we need to address?
I recognize Councilman Mahoney.
Just real quick, I want to comment, sort of echoing what Mr. Hicks said about having, it's about having more than one person to see the situation. Now, I love you tech people. Don't get me wrong when I come down on you just a little bit. Sometimes I think, and I've been around a lot of it, you get in this sort of echo chamber where you're not seeing the other points of view. And you know, you and I have had conversations about the website, for example.
Yes, sir.
And some things where I think it would benefit the city, it would benefit this man and his company to have another point of view, another outsider. Maybe that's a city volunteer, maybe that's some old retired guy like me who's got some time to just once in a while sit down and bring another point of view at it. So I'm sitting here tonight thinking that, well, like the vote thing tonight, I think it kind of piled up in a hurry on Ms. Chapman over there, and she's probably figuring out, okay, how do I reorder these things? And I don't know, I'm not sure, but I've got a feeling that the vendor, founder of the company, I forget his name.
AJ. It's AJ.
That he probably has not thought through some of the little parliamentary law things that might pop into this, the procedural type things. And to have, you know, one of us once in a while just sit down and say, here's what we saw, might be very beneficial to them.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that feedback to our vendor is absolutely important. And if you'd be willing to do that, Councilman Mahoney, I think that would be really welcome from the owner of this software.
Actually,
This one we're not voting on, I don't think, but by all means.
we're very fortunate that AJ will actually take input from anybody, and if he can make it happen or build it into his system, he will do it. So if it benefits the software, y'all, anybody else who's using it, he will put it in there 100%. So he said that to us 100 times. If y'all see something, let me know. I'll build it. So
Yeah, maybe he can consult with a parliamentarian or something like that.
absolutely. So absolutely. You got anything, you just let me know, sir. We can definitely get it to him. So
All right.
sure. Yes,
Thanks.
sir.
Thanks again, Tracy.
Oh.
Really appreciate what you do. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is D, discussion on city facility sign placement. This was brought to us by Councilman Hicks. I'll turn the floor over to you.
This is another one that I think it was a little, I guess I didn't explain it very well the last time because they brought back the wayfinding signs. What I was looking for is each building, you know, that you have, for example, the police station. You've got the police station. You go there to make your reports. You go there to file a report. That's what the police station is. Police station. Here, there's multiple things that happen in this building. City secretary, city manager, finance, billing, and then of course court, and then IT as well. So if we had some little small sign out there that with brick around, I just don't want it to look country, especially with our facade that we've got. Something nice that tells you, okay, this building, you've got this in City Hall.
Yes, sir.
And then the annex building, you've got this, you've got HR, you've got planning and engineering, and you've got economic development.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yeah. Anything else? I don't want to respond.
No, that's it. That's what I was looking for, not so much the wayfinding signs the last time. And I want to appreciate, Mr. Foos, thank your assistant for bringing that. But that's kind of what I was looking for whenever I brought that up. I don't know how many months ago. And our next item that we're going to talk about, we'll let.
Sure.
Would this be like a listing of departments like in the lobby or outside?
Outside.
It's outside.
Okay,
Where
so
if they're driving by.
Okay.
And they pull up say they pull up and they're.
So by the front door, is that what you're thinking?
Right out, yes, right outside.
Okay.
Not so much by the front door, but something that stands up, not quite this tall, but something that you've got a list of departments.
The small monument sign.
Mayor and council, so on April 23rd, Shannon Hall made the presentation. There were compliments on the work, and you asked us to come back with cost proposals. So at your budget workshop next week, since that presentation, the Public Works Department has been working on those cost proposals. So I don't know how many slides. I think it's 3-4 slides at most. And we're asking for you, is that something that you'd want to proceed with in FY25 should funds be available? Okay. So we are following up on that.
Now, would this be designed similar to You know those signs that we have over there at Cibolo Valley Drive and Borgfield? You know, like, I'm not talking about, but maybe something like a similar design, but more so stationary, not up in the air, right? But kind of with that same theme, so that we kind of use the same logo and all that. Yeah.
And, you know, like over at the annex building, have it in the brick, I don't know if we've got any brick left over, but something in that red brick, or, you know, I know that they painted that. You put something in brick, but here it would be the rock facade.
Okay.
And when we bring this forward to you next week, we won't have the rock or the brick, but again, it's the general design and a cost estimate. Council's final direction, and again, should funds be available in FY25, we'll follow your direction.
And if you'd like, I can draw something up.
I'm good.
Okay.
You are very clear, sir. All right.
Okay, is that all, Councilman Hicks?
For that one.
Okay, all right. Next up is E, discussion on the bulletin board outside of City Hall. Councilman Hicks.
This one is kind of the same thing. I don't know if Peggy had showed you the drawing that I drew up the other day, but something with the rock around it. It's a bulletin board. You take and put some concrete to where you're not blocking the sidewalks, where people can walk up and look at it, or, you know, whoever's in the city secretary's office having to put up stuff in the bulletin board, they're not having to step in the, I don't want just a couple of wood poles up there. This isn't, I'm not gonna call out any of the surrounding cities, but this isn't Mayberry. I just want something that, you got the rock facade, you've got kind of like a fireplace where it's imprinted in, they can open the doors, post what they need to, but have a rock facade around it.
Thank you, sir. So David Howard, our new Parks and Facilities Superintendent, is working on this project. As you know, he started just within the past month, doing a great job, particularly with our special events, jumped right in. So he will be working with the city secretary's office on that outdoor bulletin board. We'll definitely consider those ideas, sir, that you passed along to Ms. Simmickson. I'm sure she'll share those with David Howard.
Any other council members have any input on the bulletin board outside? Nope. Mr. Hicks, you done? Okay. All right. Moving on to F, discussion from council members that have attended seminars, events, or meetings. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Well, had a good AAMPO meeting last Friday. Had the Brooks, it's called Live Brooks. They came and did a presentation to us about all the stuff that they're doing on the old Air Force Base out there. I remember having to go out there several times because I was a medic at Wilford Hall, and we'd have to take people down there to the hyperbaric chambers, and they still have a lot of that stuff, are still working out there, but they're building a community. It's like it's a community on the base. They're starting to sell property on the base and houses. It's really cool what they're doing out there. Went to this morning the Commissioner's Court. Not a whole lot going on there. I don't know if anybody else saw this, but the Chief Deputy Sheriff, he's going to be sheriff come January. Yes, Mr. Ray. He will be working in the DA's office for the time being.
I saw his letter.
Okay.
I saw that.
And that's about all I have, other than going to the summer nights and going to the fishing thing. That's about all I've done.
Thank you, Councilman Hicks. Hetzel, have anything?
Well,
ACOG.
Yes, senior citizens and whatnot. Basically, we had a video conference, and there was a small group of us that approved some more contracts for providing services for seniors throughout the region for ACOG. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Councilman Hetzel. Appreciate your time and participation in that in our senior program and representing us for ACOG. Appreciate it, sir.
Just one other thing. Presume that you've seen the thing on the chairs. Well,
what's going on?
We've got some new chairs that are on the way that are being donated for the senior center.
Nice.
And so it looks
more comfortable than what they got right now.
Yeah.
That's good.
And there'll be an announcement on that pretty soon.
That's fantastic. Who's donating this? Who's donating the chairs?
Oh, golly.
Shut them off guard.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that way.
I just wanted to recognize them for their efforts.
I'll have it for the next
Next
meeting.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens.
I was just able to make it out to the fishing pond and with Chief Troncosa over there, and also just the Cibolo summer nights. It's pretty tame this past 2 weeks, so it was nice.
Thank you very much for coming out to the fishing events. Appreciate it. I don't normally talk about what I do because this agenda is listed as council members, what they do, but I wanted to share something real quick. As far as I was invited by the Air Force to go out to the air traffic controller of our tower, the air traffic control tower at Randolph, and so I got a chance to get out there with I think Maggie was there, and the mayor of Converse was there, and several others of us. But anyway, it was a really nice experience to be able to see what goes on there. And there was even an airplane that was coming in, and their landing gear, one of the wheels wasn't coming down. So they were sitting there watching the airplane with the binoculars, looking and telling them, hey, you can't land right now. They had to manually fix it, and luckily they were able to land it. But I happened to be there during that incident and see what was and see what they do. It was just a hydraulic failure with the automatic, wheel go down thing, whatever it's called. Yeah. So they had to manually pull it down. Yeah. So anyway, the plane was able to land. Everything worked out all right. But I think it was a T. It was really one of the main plane they have. What is it? T-38. Yeah. The blue one that has the camouflage. Oh yeah. Yeah. T-38. So anyway, it was a really cool experience. Councilwoman Cunningham.
So I attended a webinar, and I can send you all the link to it because they did the recording. It was called Navigating Rail Crossing Elimination Program. It's a federal program that has $1.1 billion available to help mitigate rail crossings. The eligibility, there's a lot of different eligibilities for it, but some of our railroad crossings would likely comply. They would qualify. Their first year, they gave out, I was trying to find the slide, but I can't find the slide for how much they gave out. Oh, the first year, there were 63 projects selected for $571 million across 32 states. They will have this new application early summer, so it should be coming out soon. They haven't had a specific date, but usually they don't give a whole lot of time, unfortunately. There's going to be $229 million set aside for projects in rural communities or tribal lands, and every project has its own definition of what a rural community is, so we may still qualify for that. And then there's a 20% non-federal match, which we may be able to go in with, like the county or with someone else, since our railroad crossings affect everyone. So that was a good webinar by the Go Rail group.
Katie, is this an opportunity for our grant writer, you think?
It is.
Okay.
So I'll be forwarding it to her, the information that I have, and I can send it to Peggy to send out to y'all if you want to watch the recording. I'm scheduling a tour of Verosade. It's that apartment complex that's right behind Cibolo Valley Ranch. One of the people who works for the developer used to be on our EDC, and he was my EDC rep, and he offered to have me come out. He's been working really closely. Anytime there's a resident complaint, like when their builders were doing something, and the way that they were moving the dirt, it made all the fences fall. So one day the entire row of fence fell, and so he had his crew come out on a Sunday to fix the fence, and they put up a bigger fence.
Is that along 1103?
It is.
Is that what was going on? I drove past that, and I saw a big crane over there. I was like, what the hell's going on?
So
Okay.
it looks really big, but it really is only like 200 and something units. It's not as large as it appears, but I'll be going on a tour of that, so I'm kind of excited about that. I'm also going to be, I've been working with the HOA at Saddle Creek Ranch. They have a bunch of property that was so generously given to them by the developers that's pretty unusable. It had a lot of brush. Yeah, shocking. It's floodplain.
It's a gift.
But there are two ponds, almost 3 ponds in that area. One of the ponds is a little bit larger and does have fish, and they reached out to see if the city would be able to assist in getting access to that pond, not just for their residents, but also to make it open to the city. So the city was able to coordinate with them and clear some of the areas so that they were able to access it. They're working on putting down the path right now. There were a couple of trees that they had to have removed that the city wasn't able to remove. So it is accessible now. They're finishing up the path, and then it will be open for the public to use. Even though it is within their HOA, it will be open for the public.
Okay.
They have one concrete, so here's the Coy Lane section of Saddle Creek Ranch, and then the big section. There's a green belt in between that goes all the way back. There is one concrete path that goes from their pool over to the old section. This path goes up through the middle to the pond, and then they're looking at trying to do another pathway to the new section. There's like a drainage easement type thing that they're looking to put in some kind of gravel walkway because concrete's just cost prohibitive and in the floodplain. So they'll be doing some kind of path there. But once that is ready to go, I'll let everyone know, and y'all can go out and look at it.
We always like more ponds, Katie.
Yep.
That's fantastic. All right, Councilman Mahoney, anything? Roberts? Okay, all right, moving on to discussion on items the city council would like to see on future agendas. Any items we want to talk about now, or otherwise we can just email Peggy. Katie, go ahead.
This isn't really an agenda item per se, but if one of us adds something to the agenda, a lot of times there's nothing in the packet. And so it's like just Councilman Hicks, the facility sign. I had no idea what that was about. I know we had talked about before trying to get our signage to be consistent, like in shirts, they have the big boulders. But I didn't know it was about finding the departments within the building. So if maybe we could try to be a little bit more proactive and put a summary or something together, because otherwise it's like a special little surprise. I'm guilty of it too, so.
So she's saying put something in the packet, like drawings of what
Well, and
you
if
want.
you can't get it in time for the packet, that's understandable, but if you can send something to Peggy that she can send out to us, just so we get a heads up, that would be helpful.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, moving on. H, discussion action on the review and confirmation of all upcoming special meetings and workshops and scheduling the time, date, and place of additional special meetings or workshops. Peggy Simmons.
I just want to remind everyone, on Friday, we have the Flag Day ceremony at 9 o'clock in front of the flagpole. So if anyone is going to be in attendance, like always, they kind of have a little speaking part for anyone that wants to participate. And then I want to remind you that we have the budget workshop #1 on next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. It's listed from 5 to 8, and we will have some type of food for you when you get here at 5. Yeah, and on the 25th, we have the mini budget workshop that starts at 5 o'clock. And if I haven't already sent you calendar invites, I will send a calendar invite for all of them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peggy. All right, next up is 12, executive session. The City Council will convene an executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072 regarding real property, and 551.074 personal matters to deliberate and seek legal advice regarding the following. A, Airbnbs and short-term rentals, Councilman Benson. B, the acquisition of additional real property which would otherwise place the city in a disadvantage during real estate purchase negotiations if conducted in open session. Mr. Reed, Mr. Hyde. C, city manager's appointment, employment, valuation, reassignment, Councilman Benson. And then we also are going to talk about 7E, approval of a resolution supplementing Resolution 1668, authorizing the city attorney to represent Officer Balderas in the T-Cole dispute, as well as Resolution A, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo, Texas, creating the City of Cibolo Youth Advisory Council and bylaws regarding the prayer moment of silence. Correct, Mr. Hicks? Okay. All right. The time is now 8:33. We will convene into executive session. All right, the time is now 10:13 PM. We are resuming from executive session. Wait for Mr. Hicks, there he is. I'm going to pass agenda item 7E to Mr. Hicks for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve item 7E after discussing with our attorney.
Second.
And we've already voted on this one through the machine for the,
7E.
so we're going to do a voice call.
I know, but
Did
we
we skip
did.
it? I thought we voted to. Okay, so we'll do a voice vote starting with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 7E. Ayes have it, 7-0. Moving on to 9A, Norma Sanchez-Stevens will make a motion here.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the resolution of the City of Cibolo, Texas, creating the City of Cibolo Youth Advisory Council with an amendment to the bylaws in Section 2.4 under Order of Business, Section A, to remove moment of silence and replace it with moment of reflection.
I got a second for that one. This one, I think we can electronically vote, right? With the 9A?
It has an amendment.
Okay, we'll do a voice call starting with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, moving on to 12B, Councilman Hicks is going to make a motion.
I move to authorize the city manager and city attorney to accept the offer made by Donovan Jackson to sell Noble Group Event Center to the city upon satisfaction of the following conditions. The city replatting the event center portion of the property into a separate platted lot. The city attorney obtaining a survey of the property. The city attorney obtains the title history and any scheduled encumbrances found on the property be either cleared or found to be acceptable by the city and the city attorney. 4, a negotiated allocation of costs related to any repairs found by inspection as necessary. 5, a leaseback lease includes the terms expressed in the executive session. 6, city finance certified sufficient funds exist to purchase and return the city council for necessary appropriation and budget amendments to account for the purchase and related closing costs. 7, closing to occur within 7 days after all conditions are met to satisfy of the city attorney.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Right here.
Oh, we can vote on this one, okay. Norma? Okay. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Agenda item number 14, motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.